All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Thanks for joining us here today for the latest Toolkit Tuesday from DriveOhio. We call this bite-sized learning for busy educators. We're going to be talking today about the future of Ohio's airports. And we've got an awesome panel here today that will get introduced in just a moment. And just to help get us started, I'll just walk us through a few quick reminders. This webinar is being recorded, so we can share it afterwards with everyone who registered. And if you're a participant, your audio is currently disabled, but you can absolutely submit questions through the chat. If you're having any trouble with the chat for some reason, maybe raise your hand through the Teams function or whatever way to let us know. And we encourage questions throughout the webinar, and we'll answer them as best we can. And then afterwards, we will be sharing a recording of this webinar along with a copy of the slides with everyone who registered, and that'll also be available through our website at drive.ohio.gov. So I'm Rich Granger with DriveOhio. I'm the Managing Director of Workforce here. And the webinar series is part of our K-12 Educator Toolkit, a free collection of resources available through our website at the QR code shown there. It's drive.ohio.gov/toolkit. And this is all, as we'll talk about here a little bit today in context of today's conversation. These are all free resources to help support K-12 education, whether that's in a classroom, after school, libraries, summer programs, or anywhere that formal or informal education happens. That's what this toolkit is all about. And these webinars are meant to provide a snapshot into the world of the advanced mobility technologies we work with. So with that, I am very excited to introduce our panelists today. And we've got Juliet Jordan from NATA. We'll explain her organization in just a moment. We've got Nishan Marks from Woolpert and Clay Finken from Erie-Ottawa International Airport. And with that, I'm going to ask each of you to maybe introduce yourselves by answering the question, what does a typical day look like at your job? Juliet, we'll start with you.
Super. Thank you so much, Rich. And what a good question to start out with. So I am the Managing Director of Industry Affairs and Innovation at NATA. We're the National Air Transportation Association. We've been around for a little over 80 years, and we're a general aviation trade association who advocates for our membership on the Hill, on the ground, and in the air. And our main goals are basically to support our membership in a varied spectrum of areas. So we're basically a team of subject matter experts dedicated to support them from a policy perspective, safety training, education, learning, you name it. And so what does that mean for my job? I like to describe it as I get the opportunity to do all of the fun stuff at NATA. So I get a deep dive into anything to do with advanced air mobility, anything with eVTOL, UAS. That includes keeping an eye on any regulations that come out, any legislations. Anytime a member needs support for anything to do with the AAM landscape, I'm there to help them, point them in the right direction. We handle a variety of committees that I'm a team liaison for, and so we orchestrate projects. Oftentimes I'm also traveling. I get the opportunity to do panels like this. I also oversee things like airport operations, fixed-based operations, as well as relationships with airports, and some cool and innovative fuel uses. So think of sustainable aviation fuel, that falls into my bucket, and anything with unleaded fuel. So a little bit of a varied spectrum here, but it keeps me on my toes. And a regular day looks like, for me, essentially just waking up, trying to wake up with coffee, tea, something, taking a look at the Federal Register. Some of you might be familiar. That's where all of the federal papers, notices and whatnot get posted. So we'll do a quick scroll through those to start our morning off. And then it just enables me to be able to help support members if anyone has a question for anything in terms of a legislative or policy question. We work on a variety of projects, member resources for our membership. I'll often be working on them if it falls in my specialty, coordinating conferencing, coordinating some paneling, and working on different projects in general. And with that, I'll pass the baton back to you, Rich.
Awesome. Thank you. No, that every day does sound exciting, and we're glad you're spending part of today with us. Sean, it's your turn. Tell us about a day in the life at your job.
Hi, so Nisham Marks, program director of advanced mobility at Woolpert. I've been with the company for a month and a half, but I've been a big fan of what the company's been doing for a long time when you're looking at aviation. It's a 100-year-old company who likes to help that Wilbur Wright the Wright brothers were one of their first customers. They are headquartered here in Dayton, Ohio, but offices all around the world. So a typical day in the life and what I've been experiencing with some amazing colleagues is really how do we ensure that our roads and our airports and all of our infrastructure is safe, and that we're enabling all different types of new technology, advanced air mobility, so VTOLs, vertical takeoff and landing, autonomous vehicles, their fuel sources. So very similar to what Juliet, while she's looking at the general aviation airports, now I get to really expand to communities, cities. What does it look like outside of the airport ecosystem? But also, what do airports need to have? For instance, on this slide that I love that you proposed, there's a vertiport in there. What could a vertiport look like? What could the next mode of transportation look like? What do the next garages look like? What do the next roads look like? How do we keep evolving how things are moving and how things are created? So that's really whether it's with rural communities, cities, airports, different municipalities, as well as state and federal DOTs, is really where I kind of fall into on a day-to-day basis.
Love it. Imagining the future. What fun, right? All right, Clay. Welcome. And what does a day in the life look like for the director of Erie-Ottawa International Airport?
Well, thanks, Rich, for having me, and it's great to be on the panel with some great folks here. That's kind of a loaded question for me as a general aviation airport manager. My official title is the director, so I am responsible for executing all administrative and operational policies and procedures that are implemented by the airport authority, which actually owns and operates the airport. So we're publicly owned and operated. We are the largest airport between Toledo and Cleveland, and it's part of our mission to improve the quality of life in the region that we serve through being a force multiplier for economic, educational, and community development in the region. So my typical day changes every day. It's one of the reasons I love this job. So I can be plowing snow if we get a lot of snow one moment, and then the next minute jumping onto a Zoom call, kind of like this one. Also meeting with policymakers, analyzing budgets and formulating our budgets to ensure that we're stewarding our public resources in the best way to maintain the airport and to keep it heading toward the future. And I'm excited that my local region and our airport authority board is really leaning into advanced air mobility and what that ecosystem looks like. And they're really passionate about preparing the airport for the future.
Outstanding. Yeah, it was a little bit of a loaded question. That's a great answer. Appreciate it. All right, so let's go to the headlines. Just a few weeks ago from when we're recording this, there was a big announcement from the FAA creating a whole new category called powered lift. This seemed to me to be pretty historic. Juliet, would you agree? And what's this all about? Why is this a big deal?
Yeah, this is a great question. Thank you for posing this, Rich. This is indeed historical. I think this is the first categorization or the newest categorization in 80 years, I believe is the number. And the last categorization was just rotorcraft aircraft. So think helicopters, like 80 years ago. And so 80 years ago, the FAA made a distinguishment for a new type of aircraft. And here we are in 2024 with a brand new powered lift categorization. And so what does that mean? For those of us who may know or may have seen, like the Jobies and the Archers and Betas of the world, we're kind of in our heads thinking of a, sort of an air taxi, something someone can jump into and, fly to and from different locations. But what really does powered lift mean? It actually means that it's an aircraft configuration of sorts that can take off and land vertically, just like a helicopter. It can hover, maneuver around from a vertical perspective, and then it transitions to forward flight. So think of an airplane. So we've got a configuration here of an aircraft that starts off like a helicopter, transforms into an airplane, and can fly to and from different destinations. And so why is that important? Outside of the configuration being really unique, we've got basically a helicopter and an airplane smushed into one. It allows individuals from across the spectrum of passengers to emergency carriers, to different individuals, throughout community, to be able to have a chance to now utilize this flight for their missions. So this is important for things like emergency or tactical missions in hard to reach areas or remote landscapes, where maybe an airplane is too large, or it's too difficult to maneuver to get into, or a helicopter might be a little bit too slow to reach an emergency setting. Perhaps that powered lift aircraft could fill that gap, or it's a good transportation mechanism, that's something small and manageable that can get passengers to and from different destinations without, say, waiting in line at an airport to board a flight. Maybe it's easier to board a powered lift aircraft. And there's a lot of still work to be done. NADA is a huge proponent and supporter of this. We've supported our membership for in the AAM landscape for this powered lift ruling, and we're combing through the SFAR. It's about 800 or so pages of really detailed information that tells us, how are we going to prepare and train operators, pilots? What can the public be anticipating for the future? And basically what's coming down the funnel. So we're keeping our finger on the pulse and where we can assist federal legislators in transforming some of this rule. Back to you, Rich.
Thank you. No, what a great explanation. And I heard you say the word transforming, and it almost sounded like you were describing a transformer there at the beginning. I know when I was a kid, that was one of my favorite toys that got me excited about things. So, I mean, this really is exciting and different. I was showing a few pictures there of the Manhattan heliport, and then here's Joby. Just a few weeks ago, they were showing off their aircraft at Grand Central Station for the general public, and this announcement means that this is getting pretty real pretty fast. Aren't they predicting within maybe a couple of years passenger service might be starting? Is that right?
Yeah, this is actually I think the best way I've heard that this categorized, it moves it from paperwork to operations, right? So it's a concept on paper. We used to, think about these aircrafts. They would do their own test flights, obviously, for their own certifications. But now we're actually moving into the landscape of, the Joby Archer Beta. They're going to be teaching pilots how to fly these aircrafts, and then how to move what they have in certification to actual operations, where they'll have individuals and passengers flying in these aircraft. So we're on the cusp of some big innovation here.
I think that's one of the things that's the most interesting too. And actually it is the amount of jobs and the upgrade or upskill of jobs that are coming. Whether it's the maintenance in aircraft, you're looking at electric fuel sources, hydrogen fuel sources, different alternative fuel sources that people need to understand and maintain and to work with. But also, especially when you think of Ohio, how awesome would it be to be able to live in a rural community, but get to goods and services that are available more in a larger city. So whether it's hospital or the larger, retail stores, but then to still be able to live in your rural community and have access. Instead of taking 2 hours to drive, could it take you a 30-minute flight? What are those different opportunities? And I think that's what there's such an amazing impact for a state like Ohio.
Not only in terms of the services provided, but the jobs created. So with Joby in particular, they've already announced that they'll be manufacturing their electric aircraft right here in Ohio, in Dayton. So they've already started converting that facility into the existing postal office at the Dayton International Airport into a manufacturing facility, and then they'll be adding this new building you see here. There'll be up to 2,000 new jobs when it's all fully up and running. So no matter where they start their service, they're going to be building them in Ohio, which is super exciting. Check out that website to learn more.
Yeah, I was going to
Well,
say,
there's a
I
lot
think,
of yeah.
oh,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say the Jobs Ohio did a study right as we were getting into this advanced air mobility space, and they from that study predicted 15,000 jobs in this industry by 2045. So we're well on our way to that prediction coming true. So it's exciting.
You got it. No, we're 2,000 jobs in already, and more. I think more on the way. So that's exciting. And you think about all the batteries that go into this too. We got to build those things too. So there's a lot of like construction opportunities here and manufacturing for sure. All right, so we're talking innovative aircraft. Let's talk about innovation at airports for a minute. Nishan, can you kick us off with a discussion about what innovation looks like at Ohio's airports?
Sure, I'm happy to. There's a variety of innovation that all airports can have, whether they're large commercial airports or general aviation airports. One of the things that I really think is exciting and is particular to this audience really has to do with robotics and automation. How do we, airports have been doing things the same way for years. How do we make sure that the next generation of workers have a similar opportunity with the next generation of jobs? I think if you could flip back to the other one real fast.
Oh,
Sorry.
sure.
Yeah.
That's okay.
And with this, this is a great viewpoint. If you've never been to Springfield, Ohio, highly recommend going to Springfield, Ohio, and checking out what is happening with the National Advanced Air Mobility Center of Excellence. Not only do they have a beta vertiport, which you'll see underneath the blue logo there, they also have electric charging for aircraft as well as cars. So this is a great example of what things could change. So the vertiport could be off the ground, it could be on the ground. It's still being figured out and decided how things will work. But it's not that you can have the heavy infrastructure of large runways, but you can also have smaller infrastructure, but you still have to maintain it. And that maintenance, where Clay has a great team, I'm sure, and he even mentioned he has to jump in and shovel snow at times. What are the things, I like to say the dull, dirty, boring jobs that can be evolved? And that really the next generation, high schoolers, they want to be able to do. Again, back to, I think my kids looked at me like I was crazy when I said most of the things are done on a clipboard. Like, why wouldn't you have that on an iPad? Or what even is a clipboard? What are the tools? I joke, I could use an abacus or an Excel. These are tools and opportunities for people to do things better. So that next slide. And I love the picture that you picked for all of these, Rich. Awesome job. So I actually was at CVG Airport for 6 years, and we explored a lot of robotics and automation. The blue kind of circle with the CVG logo on it, that's a company called Piaggio Fast Forward. It's JITA. It follows you. So it's robotic, but it's not fully autonomous. And it serves a purpose. It's a good price point. And actually the lid lifts up and you could put like a suitcase in it or 2 grocery bags, and it will just follow you as you move on once you press a button and it picks up your image. And this is a way that we thought passengers might be able to utilize to be able to take off some burden, but also then realizing our employees, it became obvious that it was a great tool for employees to be able to take things around an airport. Airports can become very large, and when you're walking all day and carrying things, this was a great tool. So at the same time, we started looking at fully autonomous vehicles. And so big shout out to Origo which is on the other side of the screen. So this tug, not only is an autonomous tug that can tank turn. So at the airport, there are a lot of different tight corners and areas that you have to be able to get into in order to get up close to the airplane. So this autonomous vehicle not only can go around the airport autonomously, but it can also tank turn. And then you can kind of see those big metal things. It can actually push things on and off of what they call a K-loader. So on and off the kind of elevator that takes things to an airplane. particularly something that's called a ULD. And that's like if you were to think of a giant suitcase that could fit inside of an airplane, that's metal. I don't know how else to explain those. Clay and Julie, feel free. Uh, but
You're doing
it
great.
just fits right in. And the fact that you have arms that can come and go, it allows someone to, instead of having one person or multiple people moving those goods, it allows the robot and the person to manage maybe 4 or 5 robots, or maybe more of these vehicles through a dashboard. But then there's that safety and security aspect. So one of the big differences about Arrigo versus the Jita, Arrigo uses LiDAR. LiDAR is an amazing tool that can create a digital twin or a map. One time I was speaking to a group of middle school students, and a kid said, "Oh, LiDAR is just how bats navigate." So a bat navigates using sound against different things, and it knows when to not hit things. LiDAR uses light. So it creates a map that has different visuals of light, but then that robot can say, okay, I know my area and I know where I am, and through GPS and all of the tech that a lot of our cars have. So it knows where it is. Now, what does it do when a plane goes by? Or what does it do when a wing walker goes by? So then they train all of these different rules. This is how you interact. This is what happens. And that team, they're based in Coventry, but they've been working at CVG for a few months. So really cool technology. And these are all jobs that are going to be coming up. They still need people to maintain. They still need people to do development. They need people to be safety drivers. Because right now we're just still getting used to, in the US, what will we allow to be fully autonomous versus not. So it's pretty exciting. And the robotic revolution really starts at airports, in my mind. It's a great place to ensure safety and security and multiple eyes in opportunities.
Oh, that's fantastic. What a great behind the scenes look. And here we thought today we were going to show up and talk about nothing but aircraft, but you perfectly illustrated here all the behind the scenes of what's happening in an airport, from shoveling snow to moving luggage and everything in between. And maybe I'm just in a sci-fi mood today, but that looks like something out of Star Wars to me. So we're covering all my favorite like movies and TV shows right now. This is great. All right. Here's an unexpectedly fun question. Clay, what was Operation Lollipop Drop? Inform us. What is this all about?
Oh man, Operation Lollipop Drop was a first of its kind demonstration between the mainland and the Lake Erie Islands, which we service as part of our region, driven by an educational opportunity, so that we hope to expand on. So in order to fly drones in federally controlled airspace, drones that are larger than a certain size, you need to have what's called a Part 107 certification through the Federal Aviation Administration. It's also just a great idea to get it anyway if you plan to fly drones at all. There's a lot of intricacies in the national airspace system. It's not just open air up there. When you get up to a certain level, there's a lot going on, and there's a lot to be aware of. So that Part 107 is kind of the foundation of getting to know flying drones and flying in that airspace that isn't just the air traffic controlled airspace. It's kind of that in between area where we're introducing this new advanced air mobility technology into the national airspace system. So we took a pilot program and got 5 high school seniors from around our region in 5 different high schools: Port Clinton, Put-in-Bay, Perkins, Sandusky, and Danbury. We had their science teachers, or if they had an aviation program, we had their instructors pick the champions, because we had a limited resource at the time, again, hoping to expand on this. And we got those 5 kids into a Part 107 course taught by a gentleman named Pramod Abuchandani and Craig Ibani from the New Jersey Institute of Technology, who've been fantastic partners with us as we try to navigate how do we not get left behind in this landscape as an airport and as a region. And so they went through a curriculum to prepare the students for the Part 107 exam. And then as the capstone of this project, we demonstrated to the region that, hey, this technology is here. It is viable to move goods and people to and from the islands, and it's no longer just a legacy fixed wing aircraft or a ferry to get you to and from Put-in-Bay. So we started at the South Bass Island State Park, and or I'm sorry, started at the Catawba Island State Park, took off from the dock, and landed at the South Bass Island Lighthouse and demonstrated that. Now, part of the pieces that some folks thought, well, this isn't a viable thing, but inspires me from an educational standpoint is one of the problems we ran into was battery density and that power density question. And the original plan was to go from our airport to the Put-in-Bay Airport. We had this, $20,000 piece of equipment with top of the line lithium ion batteries, and it just didn't have the power density to get there. Now there is technology on the market, Joby, Beta, Archer, they would have no problem. But for us, and for a lot of people in the industry, that power density question is one of those things that the next generation is going to have to answer. We're going to have to figure out, how do we fit a lot of power into a small weight effective package? Because the one thing that makes airplanes or aviation machines, I should say, worth their weight is their weight capacity. So you've got to be able to load an aircraft to make it make sense to fly something somewhere, short or long distances. So we did this in conjunction with the Spangler Candy Company, an Ohio-based company that is celebrating 100 years of the Dum Dum Lollipop. So we called it Operation Lollipop Drop. On the bottom of that drone there, you can see in the two upper photographs, was a payload container that contained a 5-pound bag of Dum Dum lollipops. So we thought it was really cool to showcase the Dum Dum is 100 years old. It was originally delivered in horse-drawn carriages, and now here we are, 100 years later, delivering this iconic candy to an island in Lake Erie with advanced air mobility technology, or a drone.
There's so much to love about this story. I mean, you've got an Ohio product, you've got Ohio students delivering this, and it's, like you said, it's their problem to solve. That's why we love working with students of all ages on this, is the grown-ups haven't figured all this stuff out yet. We need help.
Absolutely, and that was a constant theme from the 5 students and their instructors and everybody that we talked to in the educational world about this is, what can we do? It shouldn't have taken until they were seniors to get introduced to this technology. So I'm excited to be here and to talk about it as much as I can.
Awesome. Well, in a couple of minutes, we'll get into some of the resources that will help support that and to kind of bring the conversation in that direction. Juliet, I know your team is doing a lot of great work to help prepare our future workforce for these exact types of things we're talking about. What are some things that your organization is doing to help?
Absolutely. So I don't know how I could follow up with as good of a story or explanation as what Clay just gave, because that takes the cake. That was really good to hear. I have a UAS background in my history, Clay, so hearing it from that perspective and engaging students is really important. And that's one of the things that we are focusing on at NADA. And more so than ever, we traditionally have the National Air Transportation Foundation, which is a list of scholarships and grants for both students and employees. And these are students, all middle school, high school, and college age kids who can apply for these scholarships, aviation related, as well as grants. And then we also have some employee programs. So, different folks at GA airports and different member companies can apply for grants and scholarships as well. And our goal is basically to be able to provide a platform for them to be able to pursue education, whether that's through flight, through program development, through professional development, or coursework training of any kind. That's our goal in being able to provide these scholarships and grants to those students across our membership board. And some other things that we're doing, we're actually revamping, I guess you could say, our workforce development, and we're plowing full steam ahead in terms of sort of revitalizing the resources that we have. We have some great members at NADA. One being that came to mind that is relevant is Crew Concept. They do a UAS program for elementary, middle school, and high school kids going into college, and they teach UAS programming and development through drone soccer. But they use the FAA sort of air traffic control and other coursework materials to teach students how to communicate, to be able to prepare them for different vocations, when they hit high school. And so we partner with members to provide different opportunities like that. We do a Girls in Aviation Day across different locations through the U.S. We actually just did one in Nashville on the tails of one of our conferences, and we had Crew Concept come there, but we went to one of the hangars on site at the airport, and we set up our tables, and we had a bunch of students come through, learn a little bit about the general aviation environment, have a chance to ask questions. We had some tabling, and the students would go through different programs and learn a little bit more about the GA environment. And we're in the process of revamping our website and creating sort of a career center where students can look into, what are some options for me? I'm a high school student. Maybe I'm thinking about going to college. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I want to get a vocation right out of high school. What are options open to me in the general aviation landscape? I think, many of us here in the GA world, and, Clay and Isham, you wouldn't be any strangers to this, is that folks are hiring in GA. We're hiring for line techs, we're hiring for mechanics, we are hiring for, everyone, not just pilots. There's so much work that has to be done from those FBO and general aviation perspectives, that we're looking for students who are engaged and interested in internships and externships and future vocations and that. And so we're really pushing from NADA's level in terms of getting the word out there, revamping our career resources. We've got an airport committee that's dedicated to trying to provide some resources and manuals geared towards academic advisors. And we've got some great work coming down the funnel from the workforce perspective. So stay tuned.
Appreciate all that. Great resources shown here, but like you said, more coming soon. We'll be sure to link to all that through our DriveOhio toolkit as soon as that's published. And not to put you on the spot, but I think it's fair to say we'll find more ways to collaborate in the coming year.
Oh, 100%.
Awesome. So just as we're starting to kind of wind down our discussion here, we'll give a few sort of practical examples of things we've done in the past, and also some new opportunities for educators to think about. So one example, the Ohio Vertiport Innovation Challenge. This has been a statewide initiative. We've done this several times over the past few years in a combination of settings with some high schools, with several different universities and colleges and higher education partners and airport partners around the state. You can kind of see on the map here some examples of where we've done this. And Nisham and Clay, you've both been awesome supporters and participants in that challenge. So Nisham, I'll start with you. What did we learn from this Vertiport Innovation Challenge? What did you take away from it?
Yeah, so I actually did the first one that we had during COVID, which was smaller, and it was a weekend long. I think they held all the students up at University of Cincinnati in their dorms, kind of had them quarantining, and it was amazing. It was a volunteer over the weekend. I wasn't sure why I was doing it, and it was the best thing for me, but also it was great to be able to mentor these students. The fact that it was such cross-disciplinary groups of, you had your designers, you have your actual aviation people, and it was very, what would you create? I mean, they created everything from Ferris wheels that would be over by the University of Cincinnati, where these drones could then land and charge as they move around. And it was very futuristic, extremely futuristic. What I really liked about this one, when we went all throughout the state of Ohio with the higher ed, at least I think it was mainly higher ed. Yep. We brought it into a focus. So how could you take some of these GA airports, Oxford, which is much smaller than the Erie-Ottawa, and then Kent State, what does it look like? How does it interact? And so I think this has been very valuable because, I'm 45 years old. I'm not planning an airport for myself. I'm planning it for the next generation. So how do we make sure that they're engaged in that conversation? And So this was such an amazing opportunity, and it really just gives the students a way to have practical applications and engage and pinpoint into the area that they're really focused in.
Yeah,
So
I would say that one of the things that makes Ohio so incredible and so unique is, 50 years ago, our state governor and state legislature had the forethought to put a an airport in almost every county. Now we represent 2 counties, but they're very close in proximity. That hasn't really proofed out over the last 50 years, other than it provides a billions of dollars of economic influx into those communities throughout the state of Ohio. This technology is going to elevate those airports and make them even more accessible, and make aviation in general more accessible to folks that normally just drive by the airport on their way to either a larger commercial service airport, or they don't really connect with aviation. This technology is going to be able to reach out and touch them, and the educational possibilities to elevate those airports are right in the backyard of almost every student in the state. One of the things with that the Innovation Challenge did for us is kind of put a framework to how do we move forward with this. It's kind of coming at you, but put that into a framework of community outreach, regulatory adherence, expansion of existing airport infrastructure and beefing it up to handle this technology, and then the tech introduction to what does this look like, from computers to diagnostic tools to all that stuff, and then the training and testing of the technology, and then employment and expansion. How do we take what we then know and what we develop and build on that to further increase the usefulness of the technology and the ability to reach out and have it improve the quality of life of users throughout the state.
I would assume the community engagement, also the community acceptance, is also a
Yes.
huge one.
Yeah.
So ideally now people will be more excited to see these new aircraft.
Absolutely.
No, it's fantastic feedback, and I
It
appreciate.
also,
Yeah.
I was just going to say, it also demonstrated to me, we talk about individual communities and the needs and things. It really highlighted to me both the uniqueness and some of the challenges to overcome of each individual community with an airport or with a potential vertiport site, and how there are overarching themes, and the state of Ohio is doing a fantastic job in doing that framework building. But also we need those local communities to engage with the technology and to engage with their airport, because it's not going to be useful if it doesn't improve the quality of life of the people in that community. And that's where that community acceptance comes through, is they need to see that it is benefiting them and that it is reducing costs or increasing efficiency that really has an impact on their everyday life. And that's one of the things that this highlighted in those different communities that participated. So
Yeah. We
Absolutely.
could go on forever, but I know
yeah. When do you want us to stop?
I know.
No, we really appreciate your partnership on that challenge and the continued partnership here. I mean, you can see how you progressed from a planning study with students from Bowling Green University of Cincinnati, leading into feeling more ready to send the lollipops across the lake there, and to all the things that are coming next. And the variety of use cases we saw here was really fascinating to me. I mean, whether it was Rickenbacker Airport looking at a specialized healthcare focused medical delivery facility, to Ohio University looking at more of rural healthcare applications and everything in between. There's just a lot to dig into. This was just 5 or 6 teams that we had. There were, as you mentioned, one in every county practically that you could dig into. So
and I think
maybe
another key for educators is I was just going to say, another key for educators is the cross-disciplinary nature of what we're doing with this technology. Whether the student has an interest or an aptitude in architecture, computer programming, electrical engineering, just wanting to be a mechanic and wrench on things, there is something for everybody to do here, and interrelatedness of it is really fascinating to me.
You bet. Well, consider the call for 2025 Innovation Challenges open. Anyone in the audience that cares to engage, let us know. We can help facilitate in whatever way works out for local partners, but watch for more on that in the coming year. And here's a very specific opportunity that starts with a maybe another unexpected question. You could design an airport using Minecraft. What would it look like? And I can tell you, I don't know a thing about Minecraft. So whatever I design, it would look terrible. But if you gave me a paper and pencil, it would probably look pretty good. Clay, how would you do this? What's your idea?
Well, I'm pretty much in the same boat as you, Rich. I have kind of dove into this a little bit when the FAA announced this project, and I have actually had some students in our region that are really like passionate about Minecraft, and they came in to say, how do we get involved with this, and what do you guys need, and can we look around the airport so we can kind of start to build the foundation of this. So we spend a lot of time and energy, and Nisham, you can certainly attest to this working for Woolpert, in how to design and develop airports. We have a 10-year master plan that kind of shows the steps to continue airport improvements. So being able to make that process more efficient through this Minecraft challenge, and being able to see how the parts and pieces fit together, I think is only going to improve that process and inform that process better for the future of airports.
That's awesome. I'm glad you started looking into this. Just for the audience that maybe isn't familiar with this, so the FAA has an ongoing annual airport design challenge. It's free to participate. The QR code is here. It's faa.gov/ADC to get the details. If you sign up, you can sign up as an educator, as an advisor. You can sign up as a student. You can run this as an after-school activity. You can bring it into the classroom. The website has examples of some previous results. They've got videos. They've got all sorts of content. And then if you click the links to register, you get access to all this additional information. I've put here just a few screenshot examples of some of the tutorials and learning modules you get access to. You can dive in there, and I went ahead and looked up Erie-Ottawa International Airport. So there you go. You're in the directory, of course, in any general aviation airport. They should have, if I understood the website correctly, some Minecraft compatible data. I'm probably saying the wrong technical terms here, but I'm showing my ignorance on how this stuff works. I think we've got a few folks in the audience who've even started this challenge, so we're going to be probably coming back to you with updates from them in the future. But I think this is just incredibly cool, and I would love to see students all across the state doing this. Panelists, what have I missed here? What would you like to add on this topic? Because I think this is really cool.
I think that there's just a huge opportunity for kids to think big and for folks to think big. I personally really like the idea of modular because I think things are going to change so much faster than they've changed over the past 100 years, whether that's the fuel sources or the type of aircraft. But I think that you'll still have these hubs of multimodal opportunities that are going to really just be impactful for communities. So how do you engage if you have a vertiport at a GA? What is something like, yeah, maybe every day you want to go there anyway, because you want to get somewhere. But what are the other amenities that you would want to have? Are there, some GA airports have restaurants. Do you want to have like a grocery store type component, or Amazon lockers, or whatever it is that, people dream up of, that would create more of that, like it's a community center that you go to get to a place, and then that you get to come home to too. So I think that that's where, the modularity and the think big.
Yeah, I completely agree. That think big concept, we need that out of the box big thinking to develop these next years of aviation. If you look at the innovation curve from the moment that flight was invented to what was it, like 50 years later, we're landing a man on the moon, and it's only gotten exponentially faster. So the modularity is going to be important, and then certainly not being afraid of some of those, and saying, well, I think it'd be more efficient, or it'd be cooler to do it this way. And then working through that is just one of the pieces that is going to make this incredible.
And it's really cool to see. I've dabbled, thankfully, in Minecraft. So when I saw this question, Rich, I was like, oh, thank goodness, I at least know one or two things on the building blocks, no pun intended, of this. And this is a great challenge. This is, I'm gonna say, one of the fun sides of the federal government, I guess. This is one of the fun programs that they have. So happy to see that it's still in full swing. And to Nisham's and Clay's point about, this is a good opportunity for educators and for students to think big and think outside of the box. This is also, if you think about it, an informal way to test ideas. So if you want to put a vertiport on, say, like, I'm in San Francisco, right? So say San Francisco International Airport. If you want to put 3 or 4 vertiports there, what would that look like? This is a good idea to informally test, the visuals of that, and explore a little bit in terms of the community aspects that Nisham was speaking about before.
That's outstanding. And it reminds me also for our aspiring pilots out there. I think I saw that Joby is now part of Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Yep,
So if you
they
want to
are.
get the eVTOL flying experience, you can do that too. And I'm sure we're forgetting lots of other stuff. I mean, in other previous webinars, we've talked about our partnership with Lego Education, where I got to show off some of my Lego building skills. It just fell apart, but there's like the vertiport that I built. So, there's all sorts of ways for all ages and all types of interest areas to get involved with this stuff. So as the audience can probably pick up, we're all very excited about this topic, and I'm sure we could just keep going, but I am going to start to wrap us up a little bit here, at least for today's version of the conversation. So if you want to learn more about this DriveOhio Educator Toolkit, we mentioned earlier, this is free online. It keeps evolving and adapting. We're putting the finishing touches on a landing page that's specific to drones and air mobility. We're going to call it the Drone and Air Mobility Toolkit within the broader DriveOhio Educator Toolkit. So those links will be provided as soon as that's online. And you can find a sort of a curated collection of a lot of stuff we've been talking about, including information about industry recognized credentials you can earn, things like the Part 107 drone pilot license that was talked about earlier, other credentials through providers like Unmanned Safety Institute, USI, and groups like that. We've also got other previous webinars you can check out through our toolkit, along with free curriculum and links to free equipment through the PAST Foundation and all sorts of other resources. So that's what we brought to the conversation today. I want to thank our panelists for an outstanding conversation and everything that you do. I don't know if you each have a closing thought you'd like to share with the audience as we wrap up today's conversation, but feel free to jump
Download
in.
the toolkit and utilize it. Even if the kids seem, or young adults seem kind of like, oh, this is stupid. Once they start getting into it, they will be excited. And I think you'll see a lot of engagement from those students, especially as they start dreaming of what could be. So just download, not to be shameless plug for you, but it's a really amazing tool.
Yeah, they say once you get bit by the aviation bug, you never want to leave. So let this be one of the tools that helps propel your students to that for sure.
Absolutely. And what this needs in the local communities is a champion. And I know we're working through our education, with our education partners here locally. How do we lighten that burden but keep the energy and the passion going, keep those champions alive for this type of endeavor? And so we're looking at different ways to solve that. The DriveOhio toolkits are one step in that direction, and actually many steps in that direction. And then looking at regionality or partnerships and things like that. But download it, get started with it. And I think connecting with your local airports, if they're open to it, is also a key point. So start here and then branch off to the airports.
I love it. Partnerships and collaboration. That's how we do it. Well, thank you all for joining us, and thanks to our audience for tuning in. And we'll see you in 2025 with more Toolkit Tuesdays. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks all.